Allows Russian troops on their soil, continue to do so today. They have allowed missile strikes to occur from their soil. They have allowed for airstrikes to be launched from their soil. So clearly they are enabling the Russian invasion inside Ukraine. But in terms of their actual forces being involved, we just have not seen that. And again, I haven't seen this report, so it's difficult for me to assess the significance of this checkpoint. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me, given that that as the Russians were retreating from the north, the Ukrainians were in hot pursuit and doing the best they could to make that retreat more difficult for the Russians, more hasty than I think they wanted it to be. And of course, they had to do a significant amount of clearance because of concerns for landmines. So, yeah, I'd refer you to my colleagues at the State Department.
Said that you would be part of these discussions, but no decision has been made. Can you tell us if you are discussing it with them?
I would refer you to the State Department.
My other question is, Medvedev, I can't say his name, Medvedev said today that Russia would significantly...
They needed specifically for the fight in the Donbass. And as we talked about yesterday, given the terrain, given the kinds of reinforcements, given the kinds of capabilities that the Russians, bless you, are beginning to push into that region, things like artillery and counter-artillery radar, those were...
Our stock been reached?
No. Again, every shipment is based on consultations that we're having directly with the Ukrainians. I think, we detailed for you pretty specifically what was in this $800 million, and these were items that we knew and that the Ukrainians made clear that they wanted. I mean, we'll have some later after the discussion yesterday with the CEOs. We're comfortable that our stocks are in keeping with our readiness needs, but we obviously know that as these packages go on and as the need continues inside Ukraine, we want to lead turn that. We want to be ahead of the bow.
Provide the missiles, ammunition, weapons to use for Ukraine war. What can you say about the military cooperation between North Korea and Russia?
I don't have much context on any cooperation between North Korea and Russia. Obviously, we wouldn't approve of any nation providing material support to Russia in this invasion of Ukraine.
But North Korea and China, excuse me, they support economic and military aids. So it can be affected more strong war in Ukraine. It affected the Korean Peninsula. How did you estimate this?
Yeah, again, let me put it this way. We haven't seen any tangible support from either China or North Korea to Russia, point one. Point two, we, in addition to doing everything we can to help Ukraine defend itself, we also have responsibilities in South Korea to help the South Koreans defend themselves and to reinforce our security commitments on the Korean Peninsula, and we're still very able and very capable of doing that.
One more, South Korea, excuse me, because I haven't looked. Will the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln is in Korea right now in Korean Peninsula? Will this Abraham Lincoln join U.S. and South Korea joint exercise next week, or why they coming to Korean Peninsula?
Well, it's not uncommon for U.S. aircraft carriers to steam in that part of the world. Not unusual at all. I don't have anything on the Lincoln schedule to speak to today or what exercises he might contribute to. I'd refer you to U.S. Forces Korea for that. But look, freedom of navigation is freedom of navigation, and our carriers demonstrate significant maritime power all over the world. It's not uncommon for them to operate in those waters. Mike.
Yeah, John, is the Moskva the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet? Do you know the identity of the admiral whose flag it was and what's his disposition?
I don't. I've seen colloquial. Yeah,
I've transfer his flag to another ship?
Yeah, I've seen colloquial comments about her being the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, I have nothing to corroborate that she was in fact a real flagship in the way that we consider a flagship. I mean, she's obviously, it's a cruiser and probably the biggest surface combatant that they have in the Black Sea at this point. And there's only 3 in that class, so the Russians didn't make a lot of them. But whether she was an actual flagship with an actual admiral and staff aboard the way we conceive of it, I just don't know. Yeah, Rio.
Thank you. I want to ask you about the security deal between China and the Solomon Islands. The diplomatic efforts are ongoing to encourage the Solomon Islands to reconsider the deal. So from the military perspective, do you think this security deal is a part of China's broad effort to project power beyond the second island chain?
It certainly could be. I refer you to the State Department for more detail. I would just tell you that we do understand that the Solomon Islands and the PRC are discussing a broad security-related agreement. The broad nature of that agreement itself leaves open the door for the potential deployment of PRC military forces to the Solomon Islands, and we believe that signing such an agreement could actually increase destabilization within the Solomon Islands and could set a concerning precedent for the wider Pacific Island region. So, I mean, obviously we're concerned about this. Okay, let me go to the phones. I haven't done that very much. Jeff Shogel, happy birthday, Jeff.
Thank you very much. The Air Force is helping families of transgender, gay, and lesbian children who are in states that have passed anti-gay and trans laws like Florida, Alabama, and Texas. I'm wondering, is the Defense Department coming up with any policies to help military families who feel that who live in states that have passed laws like this?
Jeff, I'm not aware of any departmental-wide policies. I think what the Air Force did was communicate to airmen and their families that if they needed any assistance or advice or counsel as they transferred from base to base, that there was a set of resources available to them. Carla Babb, VOA.
Hey, thanks, John. Like Barb, I am interested in Russia's threat to deploy nuclear weapons in and around the Baltic should Finland and Sweden join NATO. How concerning is this threat to the Pentagon? And also, Medvedev was claiming that Russia was not to blame for this. What would you say about that? Sorry, that's my daughter.
Sounds like you got a bit of an armed conflict going on there at home. Are you okay?
We are okay. That is what happens when you try to lock your office door and you have a 4-year-old.
Did not sound nonviolent. Oh man, I got to get my brains wrapped around this again. Look, we obviously take any potential nuclear threat very, very seriously. And we noted early on in the conflict when Mr. Putin decided to offer some bellicose rhetoric with respect to nuclear capabilities that we noted at the time that we took that seriously and that we continue to monitor it as best we can. So with respect to any recent rhetoric, we're obviously watching that very closely too. I would just tell you, again, 2 things. Our strategic nuclear deterrent posture is something that the Secretary checks in on every single day. It is not something that we take for granted. And number 2, we have seen nothing in the space out there that has given us cause to change that posture in any tangible way whatsoever. So we're watching this every single day. Tony Capaccio.
Hi, John. I want to go back to the unmanned coastal defense ships. A senior defense official told reporters today that Ukraine officers in the U.S. have already trained on them. A couple questions for you. Are the vessels coming from Navy prototype programs? When are they expected to arrive in Ukraine waters? And third, are they designed or intended to attack Russian vessels like the cruiser Moskva?
We don't I have a shipment details for you, as I said at the very top of the briefing. As I can get you more information about actual deliveries, we'll do that. I'm just not in a position to do that. The authorization just came down yesterday, and we're working very hard at sourcing these things and getting them on the way to Ukraine as quickly as possible. I'm not going to talk about the specific capabilities of these USVs. I've talked about them to the degree that we're going to go, and they are designed to help Ukraine with its coastal defense. Coastal defense is something that Ukraine has repeatedly said they're interested in. It is particularly an acute need now, as we see the Russians really refocus their efforts on the east and the south. And of course, when you talk about the east and the south, you're talking about the Sea of Azov and a maritime environment, and you're talking about the northern Black Sea. So these capabilities will be, we hope, helpful in their coastal defense needs, and I really think that's as far as I'm going to go on it.